Thank you to Surfshark with Incogni for supporting PBS.
Here on Eons, we often get asked to speculate about how changes to the past could have affected our present. Like, what if the asteroid impact that ended the reign of the dinosaurs just never happened? Or what would the world be like if bugs still grew as big as they did back in the Carboniferous period? Nope, that's a big nope for me. Or even, what would we be like if some of the steps on our evolutionary journey had gone a little differently? We mostly don't like to answer these questions because it's usually impossible to know. And there are plenty of wild things that actually did happen in deep time that we'd rather tell you about. Except for that last question, the one about human evolution. We do kind of have an answer. Because there was a group of hominins, those creatures more closely related to us than to chimpanzees, that did take a different parallel journey from our ancestors. Our paths ran beside each other, and potentially even crossed at times. But while ours led us here, theirs led to extinction. Our first introduction to this branch of the family tree came in 1938 in South Africa, when a teenage boy named Herk ter Blanche found some strange teeth and bits of a skull. Word of this discovery reached paleontologist Robert Broom, who tracked down Herk at school and traded him 5 chocolate bars for the teeth. Like, was he out of magic beans that day? He also convinced him to lead the way to the site of the find, a place called Chrome Dry. There, Broom was able to piece together practically the whole of the left side of the lower half of the skull, along with much of the jaw and nearly a perfect palate. The skull Herk had found had wide cheekbones and massive back teeth. And while the skull was close in overall size to that of a female gorilla, some of its features pointed to a much closer relationship with us. Like, Broom could tell from the angle of the skull's connection point to the spine that it would have walked more upright than any chimp or gorilla. He proposed that this was not just a new hominin species, but a whole new genus, one that he named Paranthropus, meaning beside human. And based on the bizarrely wide, heavily built proportions of the face, the molars, and the jaw, he gave it the species name Robustus. In the following years, many more fossils of Paranthropus robustus have turned up at nearby sites in this region of South Africa, dating from around 1 to 2 million years ago. But while Robustus was the first member of this genus to be discovered, it wasn't the last, or even the most robust Paranthropus to be found. In 1959, paleoanthropologist Mary Leakey found another species with similar, but even more exaggerated traits, this time in eastern Africa. While excavating in Tanzania, she unearthed and pieced together a nearly complete skull with a massive jaw and huge molar teeth twice the width of our own. Plus, running along the top of its head was a prominent line of bone called a sagittal crest, a site where chewing muscles attach, a feature that modern gorillas also have. These traits initially suggested that it would have been a champion chomper, with massive enough molars and jaw muscles to eat extremely hard foods. The press termed it Nutcracker Man in their coverage of the discovery, a nickname that has stuck ever since. Scientifically, though, it ended up as Paranthropus boisei. And based on the layer that Mary Leakey found the skull in, it seemed to have lived beside our Homo ancestors around 1.8 million years ago. Even more recently, a third Paranthropus species has also been added to the group, Paranthropus aethiopicus. First described in 1968 from eastern Africa, it's dated to a little over 2.5 million years ago. This makes it the oldest of the 3 species and is considered to be a possible ancestor of boisei. Collectively, these 3 species are also sometimes called robust australopithecines. But what was this side branch of the hominin family tree actually doing? They all share adaptations for powerful chewing, like wide-cheeked and heavily built skulls with prominent attachment sites for jaw muscles, and huge back teeth. So for a long time, a leading idea was that while this genus overlapped in time and space with our early Homo ancestors and close relatives, they evolved a totally different strategy for exploiting the same environments. After our lineage diverged from theirs some 3 to 4 million years ago, our genus went in the direction of being ecologically flexible generalists, with small teeth, big brains, and complex tools and behaviors. But our Paranthropus cousins went in a completely different direction. Their brains stayed relatively small, less than half the size of a modern human's, but their molar teeth and jaws became massive. Such big teeth and jaws allowed them to specialize on hard and tough foods that other hominins couldn't feed on as easily. This is called niche partitioning, and it allows different species to coexist that might otherwise compete for the same resources. But what we've learned more recently is that this picture is actually a lot more complicated. For one, it now seems unlikely that these robust hominins were all doing the same thing. In 2019, for example, a study looking at the patterns of microwear on the teeth of Robustus in South Africa and Boisei in Eastern Africa found evidence that the 2 species had very different diets. See, different foods leave different patterns of wear on the teeth, with harder foods leaving more complex pitted textures, and softer foods leaving long scratches. And despite having similar anatomy, the tooth wear indicated that while Robustus was eating some hard and brittle foods, Boisei, the so-called nutcracker man, actually had a much softer diet. And a chemical analysis of Boisei's tooth enamel has also suggested that it was mostly eating what are called C4 plants, like tropical grasses and sedges, rather than nuts from trees and shrubs, which are C3 plants. C3 and C4 plants use different photosynthetic pathways to incorporate carbon into their tissues. And for the record, C4 plants do not actually explode. Because I know it's going to be in the comments, you know? And when an animal eats those plants, those different carbon signatures can remain locked in their tooth enamel for millions of years, acting as a record of their ancient diets. These carbon isotope records show a clear difference, with Robustus eating mostly C3 plant foods and Boisei mostly C4. And in addition to there being more diversity within the Paranthropus genus than we once thought, it now also seems like the differences between their genus and ours might not be so clear-cut either. Stone tools, for example, are often thought of as a hallmark of our genus, Homo. But at a number of sites, stone tools and Paranthropus remains have been found close together, leading some researchers to argue that they might have been making and using them too. And this may have allowed Paranthropus to expand their diet, and maybe even incorporate meat occasionally. But the odds of tool users fossilizing while gripping their tools are pretty low. And thanks to the overlap between Paranthropus and Homo at many sites, we can't tell who the stone tools belong to, and we may never know for sure. So there are still a lot of open questions about the diets, lifestyles, and behaviors of Paranthropus, and we have relatively few fossils of them that aren't skulls or teeth. And there's nothing really like them around today. They probably carved out a primate niche that has been empty since their extinction, leaving us without any similar species to easily compare them to. Which brings us to the inevitable question. Why did they go extinct and not us? Well, one study published in 2023 actually tested the idea that Paranthropus boisei was pickier about its environment than early Homo that lived at the same time in the same general location. The researchers used fossil bovids, including various kinds of antelopes, from the Kubi-4 formation in Kenya to reconstruct the paleo-environments where Paranthropus boisei and early Homo were found. See, living bovid species are often quite particular about the kinds of environments they hang out in. So when we find them in the fossil record, they're a useful indicator of what the area was like at the time. And based on these environmental reconstructions, the researchers concluded that early Homo showed up in more different kinds of environments than boisei did. This supports the idea that our ancient ancestors were habitat generalists, while our robust cousins were specialists. And while we're still trying to figure out what their specialized niches actually looked like, we know from modern conservation studies and from the fossil record that specialists are more likely to go extinct than generalists. They're less resilient to environmental shifts that alter the availability of resources. And we know that when they went extinct, the environment was in the midst of this kind of shift. Fossils of both boisei in Eastern Africa and Robustus in South Africa stopped showing up around 1 million years ago. And this was right in the middle of a period of change in the Earth's glacial cycles, called the mid-Pleistocene transition. And there's evidence to suggest that Eastern Africa saw its C4 grasslands shrink during this time. This might have brought boisei into more intense direct competition with other herbivores, and potentially even early Homo, who could have exploited their resources too when times were tough. And in South Africa, evidence suggests that this transition triggered the C3 woodland habitats of Robustus to shrink as well, possibly driving them to extinction too. But ultimately, we can't say for sure what happened to Paranthropus, which is a bit unsettling when you think about it. Like, in a lot of ways, our ancestors weren't so different from them. They lived in the same places at the same times and maybe even eating some of the same things. They potentially encountered one another and may have shared the same cutting-edge technology. I see what you did there, cutting-edge technology, you and your stone tools. They may also have given us genital herpes, although that's a whole other story. Buy me a drink and I'll tell you all about it. The point is, we are still here, and they aren't. When we think about our evolutionary past and the story of how we got here, it's often tempting to look at it through a lens of inevitability. Like, humans were simply meant to take the evolutionary path that we did, evolve our unique combination of traits, and survive into modern times. But the parallel journeys of Homo and Paranthropus show us that things could have happened differently. And a lot of our success might just come down to the luck of the evolutionary draw.
Thank you to Surfshark with Incogni for supporting PBS. Incogni is a data broker removal tool created by Surfshark. In a nutshell, Incogni sends out information removal requests on your behalf to a long list of data brokers so that those who are holding your personal information will delete it. Data brokers are entities that collect and sell information about individuals to companies running marketing campaigns, providing financial loans, and selling insurance, and it's sometimes used to commit identity theft, fraud, or orchestrate scams. Since many data brokers continue collecting your personal information once they've removed it after a single request, Incogni also monitors your data to help ensure that it stays off the market. This means that whenever a new record pops up on a data broker site, Incogni will automatically take care of it by conducting repeated removal requests. Incogni will continue protecting your data privacy for as long as you use the service. For more information, go to the link in the description.
And thanks to this month's robust eontologists. Wow, Callie, do you want to try a little harder? You know? I think she got to raise her game. I never thought I'd say that about puns, but...
Jake Hart, Raphael Hassa, Annie and Eric Higgins, John Davison Ing, Melanie Lamb Carnevale, Addie, Tony Dye, and Juan M.
Become an Eonite at patreon.com/eons, and you can get fun perks like submitting a trivia question for us to read. Here's one from Jojo Bird. What are some of the non-scientific names for tardigrades? Oh, okay. Moss piglets? That's something, right? Water bears? Snoots and Winnaboop? They have cute little snoots. Be sure to put your guesses in the comments and stick around after the blooper, and there will be plenty of them, to get the answer. And as always, thank you for joining me in the Adam Lowe studio. Subscribe at youtube.com/eons for more fantastic fossils. Called the Mid-Pleistocene Transition. I think everything is a good band name on this show, but I'm not sure. Mid-Pleistocene Transition. It's giving a little Manhattan Transfer, maybe? I wouldn't go see that band, though.
They're like a math rock. Or very technical jazz.
Yes! Studio perfectionism, exactly. Yeet! Oh, here's the answer to the question. Here's the answer to the question. Water bears are moss piglets. I got them both. Look at me. An English major.